Hi, we're here today to demonstrate our bowsmith Pro with our optional paper tuner. The paper tuner is pretty straightforward. Just slide it out into position. This bar here will go out 3 feet past the end of your riser. Rotate the paper into place and fire a shot. For optimum results, I found that 1 shaft distance from your rest to the paper is optimal. When you're done, just slide it back, rotate it out, slide it back in, and lock it in place. There's no need to remove it. It's just a nice place to store it. Okay, next we have here, this is new as of September 1st of 18. This is an upper riser holder. Combined with the bow hand, this locks the bow in place. It gives it super stability. So from the first shot to the last shot, you're capable of hitting the same hole every single time. None of this having to settle the machine in to get it to fire and playing around back and forth. You know when you fire, as long as your machine is properly weighted down, it's going to hit the same spot. Also, we've added this little block here. This pushes the bow hand out another inch, which allows access to the back of your rest, which has been a problem in the past trying to get at the little screws. Now you can get at them pretty easily. It makes tuning that much more simpler. Okay, I'm going to show you how to set up your bow in the machine and be able to shoot arrows and set it up so it's square. For this part, we removed the paper roll here just to make things easier so you can see and stuff, and the upper brace is stowed in this manner up out of the way. Okay, the first thing you want to do is to set your bow hand. Now, easiest way I found to do this is just to set it like this up out of the way. You want to make sure your strap here is parallel with your machine. Measure from here to here, here to here, adjust it back here until that's perfect. Then what you do is just take a shaft, lay it inside here, and line it up. Just eyeball it so it runs down the center of the rest, the center of your strap, and then adjust it in or out with your 5/8 nuts here until it's just perfect. And I slide it down out of the way. Look at it again. And that looks pretty good. Alright, so we're going to want to tighten these down in place. Just snug them up. Notice I got a small wrench. No need to put a lot of torque on it. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, now we're going to set our bow in place. The easiest way to do this is to use the release to help hold it in place. Set your bow in, let it slide in place where it wants to sit there against that piece, and then put a little bit of pressure on there, put your pin in place. This is important. Always use these safeties, even when you're just setting a bow up like this. It'll save your bow if your D-loop pops loose or something else happens, or if you fire it by accident. And put some tension on it. Make sure your bow is in where it belongs. It's just sitting in there free, flopping around. Put some tension on it. Now we'll go up here, we'll lock it in place. You'll notice I'm using these little squares with a level on them. I make these things out of just some angle stock, and they really come in handy. They're worth their weight in gold. I clamp that to the riser on a spot that I know is flat and square. I'll tighten this back one down first. Notice now these knobs are a little smaller than the front one. That's because if you use a left-handed bow, it makes it a little easier. Your rest would be right there, and it's in the way with these bigger knobs. So tighten your back one down, then tighten the front ones down. Work your bow a little bit so it's plumb or close. If it doesn't want to stay plumb, don't worry about it. We'll correct that in a minute. And then tighten your front of your rest down. You don't have to go crazy. These little arms stick out 2 inches past the face of your grip. That allows for some torque to be applied. Okay, next, back the bow back down. We'll leave our string catch on, it's not going to be in the way, but we are going to release the release. Now the second thing we want to do is to make sure our string is square with the bow. This I generally just eyeball, and it is off a little bit. So to adjust that, we're just going to put a wrench on one of the 5/8 nuts on the bow hand and give it a little twist. And it comes right up in place. Go too far, just go back and bring it back down. If you don't have good eyes, use a Swanson speed square or something on the back, on the rail. That'll make it easier for you. Okay, with that square, you want to make sure your D-loop lines up perfectly with your release. To do that, you just loosen up all 4 on the back here, screws on this 3" by 5" block. And we're going to just slide it into place until it's dead perfect. And right now we're only going to tighten one of these, of the 4. That allows me to take our bow, and by holding it, don't twist the bow, twist the bow hand in this little box. And it rotates, it allows you to rotate the bow about 2 degrees right or left. And just keep messing with it there till you get it just perfect. And tighten it down. Now notice our upper bow hand, our upper clamp, we're not using it yet. Okay. Now those 4 screws are tight. They don't have to be super tight. That's why we use this kind of a wrench for that. Alright, next thing we want to do is we want to make sure our strap and everything lines up perfectly. What we're going to do is we're going to slide the draw stop into place here against this block. That allows us just to put a little tension on it, not just enough to pull the strap straight. Okay. Now we're going to look at it again. We see we're down a little low again. Make sure and we're still square, so we got to bump this up just a little bit. Might as well do it now. Okay. What we're trying to do here is get it so the D-loop and your release line up. This way you're getting a 2 result every time you shoot the thing. If you just if you're able to slide your release up and just slide it in place and click it without having to manipulate the bow, that's what you want. Okay, now we want to double check our strap. Go through some of the measure from the rail again, make sure that's, then eyeball your strap across here. Now this should be perfectly horizontal with this rail. It doesn't have to be up to the top of it. Any one of these grooves in here, pick one just to line it up with. And if you need to move it, just loosen this one button screw here and you can slide this up or down just a tiny bit just to make it work. All these were preset at the factory and shot, but things happen. They can get knocked out of whack in shipping and stuff, so you still have to go through and double check everything. Okay, that's done. So we're going to slide our locking block out of the way. Don't need that in place. And now we can, bow's still plumb, so now we can take and hook up our upper brace. The reason we do this for last is you want to set it all up as close as you can without putting any kind of stress on the bow, any torque, anything that's going to cause it to twist. Alright. Now every bow is different. There's 100 ways to set these up. Just find a flat spot in your bow. On this Hoyt, I'm going to use the top part of the riser here, just slide it through. Just get it lined up where you're not touching any metal to metal. You don't want to mar your finish. Slide the other side in place. Let's see. We're going to pick this up just a little bit here. Trying to find a flat spot to put this against. If you do that, you can still put it against something round and it will hold. Okay. There's that. Take your time. Now, if you're doing this, if you see your bolt comes out of plumb a little bit, before we tighten it down in the front here, loosen one of these back screws up, and you can just slide it just a tiny bit. And then lock it in place so it's plumb. Now install the front on. Okay. Get this right here. Okay. Make sure. And that's good. Tighten it in place. Check the screws here, make sure they're all nice and tight. And the bottom knob. Bow's still plumb. As you can see, it's very solid now. And we're square. All right. Now set an arrow in on your rest. Just lightly hook your D-loop in place. Just want a little bit of tension on this. Then sight down your shaft. Now, I can see right away my shaft is pointing just a slight bit to the right. Now we're going to move this so you can see it here. I want to show you some of the adjustments. Alright, we've moved our camera setup in our machine. Try to give you a better look at what we're talking about here as far as keeping this stuff straight. You want to eyeball through from the very back here by the winch where your strap starts, through your release and through your shaft. And I don't know if you can really see this, but I'm going to take and modify it so this is pointing out to the left a little bit off the rest. Not that much, but you can see it by eye if you get down and eyeball it. So what we got to do is we got to bring the shaft, the point of the shaft, over this way, probably about 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes a difference when you're tuning. Now loosen the 2 back nuts up in here, the ones right behind this plate, because we're going to angle this plate just a tiny bit. Now I backed off a little. Now all you want to do to get a 1/4 inch, you're talking maybe 1/4 of a turn on that front nut. Put a little torque on it. And when you eyeball it again, you can see it slid back over where it's supposed to be. So we're going to tighten them, snug up all these a little bit again. As you tighten these, do a little bit on the front and a little bit on the back as you not want to move anything again. And just snug them up in place. These don't have to be super tight. There's no vibration up in here. Just snug them up. And as you can see now, the shaft, hope you can see it, is perfectly in line. Okay, now with our shaft straight, double check everything again. release your D-loop. And one thing we notice is the shaft is straight, but it's sitting just a little bit off to the side of the breast. To correct this, loosen your 5/8 bolts again and give it a little bit of turn. Hold it so it doesn't move and lock them back in place. What we're doing, we're just sliding the bow over closer to the rail by maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Okay. Check her all out again. Make sure everything looks square. Bow is still plumb. And that should have us ready to shoot. Okay, you want to do is hook your bow up here. Make sure you put the safety device on. And now with that done, we're going to crank it back to our full set. Again, make sure these safeties are in place. Both of them. Alright, we're not shooting, so you still need your string catch. Bring your bow back until you're just shy of your stops, and then adjust the final tiny bit with this device up here. Allows for very minute adjustments. A little more and that's perfect. Now with that in place, you want to slide your overdraw stop in place. Slide it up and just set it so it's about a 1/16 of an inch away from this block here. When you fire, you really don't want to touch anything. If you pull it real tight against her, you're going to start torquing stuff, throwing your shot off. Okay, with that set, just back the bow down. If you notice our machine moving around here a bit, it's not bolted or weighted to the floor in any way as for this demonstration. Okay, with that ready, it's ready to fire. Now I'm not going to fire this, but we're going to show you how this is done. Crank the bow back, leave the clicker off when you're going to shoot. Just draw it back just to where you just about hit that stop or touch it, and just back it off, just so you got a 1/16 of an inch showing there. And then just pull your pin and fire. Okay? Now we got it back here, we'll pull this arrow out. I'm going to show you what happens, what this string catch does here. Pull the safety. Now if your D-loop lets loose, boom, that's what happens. It catches your bow, no damage. Okay, I just want to give you another view on how we set this machine up. Okay, we're doing this from straight above, so it's a little awkward for me. Alright, first thing you want to do is set your bow into your bow hand, and then hook your D-loop. And it doesn't hurt, just put a couple clicks on it, and this will hold it in place and help seat it here. Alright. Tighten your bow clamp in place. Do this back knob first, and do the front one. This is the one that gives the leverage on. Back and forth. Okay, now before we go too far, we're just going to put a little more tension on this, just so the bow, make sure the bow is seated. And we're going to back it back down. Now we're not worried about how the bow sits in there, in an angle. Okay? Alright. Now the first thing we're going to do is I'll square the bow up a little bit here. I want the string to be square with the top rail. And that's right on. Pull our D-loop up here. Now I'm going to put our stop in place here, overdraw stop. Makes things a little easier. Alright. Now you can see here, I don't know if you can see this, but our string is offset here to the D-loop. We're not worried about that right now. First thing we're going to do, we're going to clamp on our bow level, or use your sight Fits right. Okay, and we're going to adjust this box up and down a little bit. Loosen all the screws up. Pick it up just a tiny bit so it's dead center with a D loop. And just rotate, so we're going to square it so it's plumb. And that's good. Okay. Second thing we need to do is, we can see how our D-loop's all out of whack here, so we're going to adjust our bolt hand out a little bit. Loosen this up. And tighten this other nut up until it comes into plumb. Perfectly lined up like that. Tighten it down a little bit. Bring it back into plumb. Okay, and that's real good. These don't have to be over tightened. Okay, with that done, we're going to set our shaft in place. You can see here now our D-loop and our release are lined up perfectly. Now here's where the fun starts. Now, you should be able to see how this shaft is angled off to the side. Okay, we zoomed out, so you should be able to see how our shaft is angled off to the side like this. And it's got to be as our strap here, we set the back with this little device here, and this all has to be parallel. So if you got 2 3/4 here, you need 2 3/4 here, you need 2 3/4 here, and you'll need 2 3/4 at your rest. That'll happen when it's all done. Now to get this square, okay, so we inserted a photograph in here to show you what we're talking about for how far out we are here. Now this is pretty simple. This is where our torque box comes in to use here. Now all our adjustments done on these out two quarter 20 bolts here. Just simple, loosen them up. And we're going to loosen the back of them up out of the way. And then we're going to tighten the front 2 nuts. And this will pull the bow square. Keep turning this. Sight down your shaft. You can see how much you got to go. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Okay, eyeball it from the back of your machine. And it's real close. You'll notice here our D-loop is way off again. It's got to slide over. So before I go any further here, so when you adjust your bow in here, it's twisting it right and left. And so what you got to do when you're done here is line it all back up again. Once you get used to doing this, it's real fast. You do it for one bow and you're generally set with it. Okay, right there is about perfect. Same thing, tighten everything down. Pull the bow back into position there. It's nice and square with the machine. Eyeball it up again. Still got to come a little bit more. So we're going to tighten these out a little bit more. Actually, I went a little too far the first time. And there we have it. That's perfect. Okay, check our string. Lines up perfect with the D-loop yet. Now we can just snug up our bolts back here. These little 1/4 bolts do not have to be really tight. Just a light snug, and that is it. They will not move. Okay, I zoomed back out. You should be able to see from your tip, from your rest to your release, back to your winch. It is perfectly straight. Eyeball it from the back, and it really close counts. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but it does, make a difference. Your string here, this spot, the little notch inside your release has to line up with your string. And if they're off one way or the other, that's what's going to cause you to have if you're doing paper tuning, you're going to have some false readings there. So if you set it up like this, eyeball it in real good, it should work good for you. There you have it, Coop's Bowsmith Pro. With our setup, what I showed you there and what's in the book, you should be able to get perfect results. It may take a little time until you get used to going through and back and forth, but once you do it a couple times, it becomes natural and you can set a bow up in 5 minutes. Thank you.